You have those who are selective and those who are picky. And of course, there's a huge difference between being selective and being picky.
Rawclusive.
Picky is pretty much picky is pretty much ego. It is. It's narcissistic. It's ego. It's very egotistical. You are picking someone fit for you. You do not plan to do shit for them. That's why you're picky. You're
Hmm.
trying to pick somebody who's going to pretty much tolerate, your BS, even though it's subconscious, but that's really what you want. You want to be able to have your own personal benefits in this relationship that they cannot also have either. So you're picking somebody in particular to pretty much, tolerate certain attributes that's very, very negative about yourself. And then you have someone who is selective. Now, the person that is selective does not want to go through any BS. They're actually pretty straight. They want peace. They want comfort. They probably want like a great future one day. Are you into investing? Having that cool little nest egg. Do you want a family? Are you down with generational wealth? Can I die with this person?
Hmm.
Can I love the person and can they love me? And now let's go ahead and go down to layer number one. And I do want to go ahead and mention, there's a show out there called Fresh and Fit, and they usually have a panel of women on their show. And they actually got real deep recently. It was pretty much about they was asking the co-host Fresh on what type of woman he preferred. We're going to get into that later too on this premises. But he did not pretty much prefer. He preferred somebody like who has their own thing. They can have a career. You could do your own thing, but also make sure you have time for me. A whole lot of time for me. And the argument was, what if she's a boss bitch? When you're a boss bitch, you're working like 50 hours. And so why do I have to drop everything just to kick it with you? It's almost like there was like a little bit of malice there. And then there was a woman on there who was like in pharmaceuticals. And when you're in pharmaceuticals and she has her own business at that, which means that she's working major hours, she was stating, I would quit my whole career in pharmaceuticals, my pharmaceutical business. I will drop this if there was a man that wanted to wife me up and just be a stay at home mom.
Okay.
And everybody on that panel went nuts like, what?
Yeah, I'm
You're
sure.
going to drop, you're going to drop everything that you worked for to like rely on some nigga, and that was the exact words that was used to rely on some nigga.
Yeah, because you said a couple things. So I don't think that being picky always has to do with your ego per se.
Mhm.
I personally feel like that can be a part of it. But also, if you subconsciously have a fear of commitment, for example, you could be picky in a sense because nothing's ever going to be good enough because you have that fear of settling down. So there's a lot of things that it can stem from traumas, whatever you've experienced in the past that could be subconscious
Mm.
making you picky. But I don't think it's always about like ego and trying to find someone who's going to put up with your shit without you wanting to put up with theirs. In the past, me having fears of committing with people, I would always find someone, and even if they seem like they're a really good person, I would always find something wrong with them. And it wasn't, again, because I have this huge ego, because I don't feel that I do. But again, it stemmed from those internal fears. So I think that people really have to figure out what it is inside that could be causing them to be picky or finding someone who isn't the best fit.
Why do black women have this fear of reliance, on men today? Like in that podcast that they had, she was pretty much talking about like you get your own because anything can happen in that relationship. Yes, she was black, but she was also talking to somebody who was pretty much from like a third world country. She was an immigrant, second gen immigrant from Europe. So she was bound to familial tradition.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, family mattered first. But over here in the West, you don't rely on some nigga, which means black women have this discomfort when it comes to relying on black men to be the 100% provider. So you need to do your own thing because something bad could happen and it's over. But like you said, that's always the fear. No one else fears that. They will struggle with their man. Europeans will struggle amongst each other for years and years. And next thing you know, that dad, that husband becomes a millionaire. That's always the story. That wife never left. But on our end, we just can't come together. We just can't even date. It's like, nah, I'm keeping my thing. But if a brother just said, hey, Ty, you know what? I got it together. My business is about to generate 10 million. You don't have to work no more. I got you. You may say, but I still want to have my own thing. Is fear in the back of your mind, or do you really, really, really want to continue being a career person and not really have much time for your man or your family? But if that's the case, I don't want to offend anybody. You can still be a career woman and go back and forth with your man, but you know it's not always going to be the majority of time. Quality time is not going to be a major asset anymore because you guys are both career. But going back to, the initial question, why is that fear still prevalent among Black women? Why can't we rely on men anymore? Well, why can't most women rely on men?
I think a lot of it ties to family structures. Like we come from a lot of broken homes. And so if you have a household without a male, we're growing up seeing that the women are at the forefront of the house. You have a single mom, she might be working multiple hours, so on and so forth. And so you kind of internalize that. But also, a lot of times, if you have a single mom, the things that she's teaching you to be self-sufficient aren't necessarily the same things that someone from other cultures might learn. So like you were saying, a lot of people compare Hispanic cultures, for example. Their daughters are groomed from a really early age to learn how to be a caregiver. You know, they're cooking, cleaning really early. They're doing things for their father, so on and so forth. Whereas a lot of the messages that we get in Black households that are led by single mothers is go to school, get your career, be independent. Like you're emulating the things that you've seen your mother do. And that definitely has a negative impact on developing that type of bond or relationship with a man because it's what you were raised to not do. So you're kind of changing and erasing everything that you learned.
You mentioned the single parent household with the mom. Let's be honest, that's just not being taught anymore. No single parent mom is pretty much telling their daughters anymore to do you, go to college, educate, get the bag. You only worry about stuff. That's not really happening anymore.
What do you think what do you think they're telling them then?
No, I don't think no one's telling anything. It's kind of just one of those things where you just live. You just live in this house. You just kind of just know to go to college and get your degree and go for a career. Moms are really not just telling that anymore. They're not. Well, on my end, they're not. I
Nope.
really haven't seen a bunch of single parent mothers game up their daughters and just be like, "You do you." It's really not. It's kind of like you really don't never really see white dads or moms game up their white kids about stay away from Black folks. They don't. It's just one of those things. They just stay away. They have TV and music to pretty much just give them that vibe. Like no parents are. I mean, you got some parents out there. They be like niggers and shit here and there, but it's not needed anymore. That's what I was like, because I went on a bunch of dates before I got married. I went on a bunch of dates with a lot of single parent mothers, and they have daughters. They don't teach them anything. They don't. It's just one of those things, like you said, you grow up in this environment, you saw mom do it, so you're going to do it. But they did not have this conversation about men. They just worked. They just went to school. There was no conversation about men. I can't remember the last time I was on a date. I'd be like, so what are you and your daughter talking about? Your teenage daughter talking about? Do you guys have talks about relationships and stuff? I mean, not really. It's not much to talk about. It's just
Yeah.
like you date when you date.
Yeah.
So they're not telling them anything about being a wife or
Yeah.
going to. No, they just kind of just know it's just there. Like if you want to date, go ahead. There's really no conversation. There's no blueprint given to the kids anymore. So what ends up happening is they just go to college. If they find somebody in college, they do. If they don't, and it's just subconscious independence. Like you said, in other households, the whole marriage thing, the roles of husband and wife. That's brought up in other cultures. You mentioned, Latinas may be a little bit more domesticated because their mom had them in the kitchen with them, teaching them how to cook, how to clean something straight, how to like fold clothes or whatever. No offense to the ladies out there. We're not talking about you have to be domesticated, but other cultures are just like, this is what you do.
Mhm.
Same thing with the men. They're teaching their sons the value of hard ass work, networking, being a critical thinker. That is taught. But over here on our side, it's like we're just rolling with the motions.
Yeah.
That's just we just roll with it. So the fear of relying on a man, who out there is still, telling their daughters, don't rely on no man because these niggas ain't shit. It's because there's still girls out there still dating and clout chasing. They'll rely on a rapper. They'll rely on an athlete. They'll rely on an entertainer, but not the average man that's actually doing good, like that small business owner. They don't want to rely on him. But it's like, he got it popping. But why? Why not pick him? Why still pick you? Why the
I
fear?
think it's a mix. So someone in the comments say it's like a half and half. They still think it's being taught. I would say that No, I don't know if you mean like the younger generation. So if we're talking about Gen Z after millennials, what they're learning, but I feel like those messages, at least in my family, I've seen them, and it could be in the way where you tell people you're too young to settle down. If someone was thinking about getting married or having a baby when they're 21 or 22, no, you're too young, live your life, have fun. Like those are the messages that a lot of young people are receiving. And so therefore they're not really marriage focused at that age. But like you said, if you're not really learning anything and you're not learning how to be a woman or how to become a man, you're going to look to the things that you see the most. And a lot of times, unfortunately, it's social media. You hear music, talking about going for someone who will buy you a bag or fuck someone and do this. So those are the messages that women are hearing. And I think with that in mind, that's why, to your point, why are we picking men who are more affluent versus men who are average, who have, a small business or like a career that's good, but still not six figures. That is the reason why, because they're looking to these musical artists that are pushing them in that direction of this high life, materialistic, those type of things.
I do recall watching a video where you were talking about your transition,
Mm.
and you were actually afraid. Now, because it was a big step. You were leaving your comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
but you still did it.
Right.
When you got to the A, you were dating here and there, and then you decided to go ahead and take the celibacy journey,
Mm-hmm.
right? Did that have anything to do with fear, or was that pretty much just like you just know the worth?
So it actually happened in the reverse. So I was already abstinent as I was moving to Atlanta, and then it just kind of stayed that way in terms of me staying away from dating. I think at that point I was thinking that it was only because of self-worth, which a large part of it was, but there definitely was a fear there. Past experiences, things like that kind of scar you in some ways. So you do need time to recollect and then learn from what happened and jump back into it.
Have you noticed that pretty much people have no problem moving to go do something? They, they are no, they like you said, you were scared, but that's because you had a fear of the unknown, but
Right.
you still had a plan. You were like, it'll work out. So why do people fear like get dating compared to moving? That was a big ass step you took.
Yeah. I think people just see getting your heart broken and getting your hopes up and thinking that you're going to have something that is happiness in a romantic way as more hurtful than, let's say, you made a move and it wasn't the right move. It's easier for you to bounce along because you're not, maybe not emotionally connected. There might be some financial ties to it, but you can get money back, right? I think a lot of people see money as something that comes and goes, but your feelings and your heart being broken, that takes a longer time to recover for most people, I would say.
So I see a lot of women speak amongst themselves like, girl, it is what it is. That nigga ain't shit. How
Mm-hmm.
come there's never really a conversation amongst women about this is what you look for? But how come we're not really about accountability? But how come there's really not much of a discussion like, hey, if this happens, this is what you do or this is what you don't do? And the reason why, this is another reason why I wanted to bring you on because you took the celibacy journey. There's less feeling involved when you don't give it up because now there's no physical soul time. Shout out to Lala Jenkins because I had her on my show and she has a celibacy journey. Now you have your celibacy journey and everything, but is there still a fear of like, what if this guy that I do like decides to move on because I won't give it up?
Um, my fear has actually never been that, ironically enough, because I think pretty early on. I'm very transparent about it. So I think from the beginning you can tell if someone's either going to be with it or not. And at that point where you're having that conversation, it's early. So if they decide they're not looking to stick around, that's fine. I'm not really impacted by it. So it's not as much leaving because of the abstinence piece of things, but leaving for other reasons. Like, so if women have abandonment issues, it's like, okay, maybe I'm not, insert whatever word, enough for this person to stay around. That's where a lot of that fear comes from with a lot of women. But no, I wouldn't say on the celibacy piece, no.
What is so great about you to where you have what else do you offer besides the booty? Let the fellas know and let the ladies know too, because ladies know sometimes they feel like this is all I got. So what is so bomb about Ty to where you don't even need the sex because I can do this? What are your attributes?
So I first want to say this question comes up a lot about what people bring to the table. And I hate this in many ways because
Right, that's why I didn't say the table shit because I hate it too. I don't say
I
okay. For anybody that knows me, I hate the what you bring to the table question because this shit's just fucking
Because
rude. And only dickheads ask that shit.
or to a relationship than that. No, me, I think a lot is just going to be who I am internally. So very caring, very attentive to people. I think that my partner and I, we should be best friends, but we also can be partners. So I'm striving to help you reach your highest potential. I want you to do the same. So it's not just me solely what I'm bringing to you, but what you and I are able to do together. So I think that that is the biggest focus. Aside from sex is just a bonus. I think it's important, but ultimately 10, 15, 20 years from now, what you're able to build with that person, I think that is what makes me stand out the most.
I value fun, and
Mm.
I value encouragement. You know, I used to tell people that during dating all the time because girls would just be like, "You only here for the sex anyway." I was like, "Nah, I'm not. Actually, I'm kicking it with you while you're on your period. I mean, look, we're watching a movie and we're chilling. And I'm still here. You are good company.
Mm-hmm.
We can vibe, we can chill, we can play board games. That's what I actually like about you. You
Yeah.
can read a book with me because I'm an avid book reader. And
Mm-hmm.
anybody who just want to sit up in the bed and just go through some chapters or whatever, I dig that more than the sex. That shit turns me on, honestly, to tell you the truth. It
You will
does.
be okay with a woman who was, let's say she practices celibacy, so she doesn't want to have sex until marriage. If she had all of the features or qualities that you just described, would that be okay for you?
Super funny because I'm married now, so
Ah.
we have them little drought seasons. Yeah, we could go months and months and months, but as long as we're doing something that's still stimulating, like if we're like still watching a movie, whatever, or like I said, if you're still catering to something that I have a personal interest of, like reading in the bed with me, we do like a chapter of night of like some Zane book or something, just something fun, or you're playing a board game with me because we probably don't have time to have sex. We got kids. So if we're still entertaining one another, that works for me. Like you said, you mentioned friendship. You see, and a lot of dudes out there, I know they're gonna hate this, especially when it comes to me. Y'all hate that word because it corresponds to the friend zone. So like some women hate the word submission, we hate the word friend. That's just how it goes, right?
Okay.
So when we're entertaining one another, that's what makes it fun. Like when you see people go out on those couples retreats, what do you think they're up in there doing? They have to do something where they have to basically develop a friendship and become partners and try to beat every other couple in some type of couples game. That's
Exactly.
what made the show back in the day, the Newlywed Game, so fun because you had these newly married people coming on the show competing against other couples, and every time they got to answer right together, they high five, they hug, they sea walk, they were happy as hell because they did something together. They won together. That's better than sex half of the damn time. So
Yeah.
yeah, but when you stop doing shit like that with me, like, hey, want to play Connect Four? I'm tired, got a headache. Well, fuck you, man. Now I'm mad.
Because I think that for us, like the word friend bothers us if a man wants to have sex and all the benefits of a relationship without committing and is like, oh, let's be friends. You know what I'm saying? Like if you are saying using friendship in that aspect, then no, that's not cool if you know the person wants more. But I think, yeah, any relationship needs to have that foundation of friendship. Because if you think of the nature of your relationship with your friends, it's a lot more selfless. I think a lot of people enter it in a more selfless nature than they do a romantic relationship. It's like what you're able to give to one another to support one another instead of what you're able to just take and take from the other person.
Does Ty want to get? Oh, I'm not even gonna say get married. Does Ty want to be a wife one day?
I do want to be a wife one day, but it has to be with someone who's safe.
We ain't gonna be cliche.
No,
Why? We ain't gonna be cliche. Like, why is the wife role fitting for you? Because now you know how we talked about conversations don't happen like this in like single parent household. It's gonna happen right now. How does being a wife is going to benefit you?
for me, the concept of marriage is more symbolic than anything else. So I think that once you reach a point where you're ready to marry someone, again, it's more, I was going to say unconditional love, but I'll put quotes because I don't really think any love is unconditional. But it's a lot more selfless. That is your life person. You are going to be with them through thick and thin. So it's just a higher level of commitment than what your standard dating would be. So for me, I mean, aside from the financial benefits that come along with it, it's just an extension, more respectable level of a relationship than what just dating would be. But I think
Okay.
marriage is like, I want to get married one day because I know someone is going to pay all of my bills. That for me is not the silver lining in wanting to get married, which I know for some people it might be.
Well, that's depending on who you marry at that point. And so that conversation right there, I think, is like what's missing here. And I don't have a problem with somebody marrying up. Like if you would have told me, look, if I marry somebody, they got to be that quote unquote. I don't want to say it on my show, but I'm gonna do it just because it's funny. The high value man. So when you marry up, like I have a daughter. I would love for her to come up on that. I would love for her to be with a man that's going to take for care of her. Why? Because for one, that dude becomes my son-in-law, but also my son, which means I'm going to be gaming him up too. I ain't going to be one of those father-in-laws like, hey, and I go back to my room with my beer and go finish watching the game on my own and not invite him. It's like, no, I'm on your ass too. This is still my daughter. Just because y'all married doesn't mean that not going to be in y'all business. Like, no, no, no. I'm going to be in all y'all shit. Because the thing is this, I raised her so she could basically either do things on her own, survival mode,
Mm.
right? But also to encourage you. Her role as a wife is to encourage you. It ain't about cooking. It ain't about folding clothes. It's about still keeping that fire lit under your ass because, bro, when you get depressed, because people who make money, we stress the most. We do. When we in the hole, 25%, when we in the red in our business, we we gone. We don't want we go to the bar and drink every bottle and come home drunk talking about how am I gonna get out of this financial hole? I'm about to lose my business. Right?
Yeah.
You need to be there to pretty much just like, okay, babe, is there anything I can do? Do you need me to call up some folks? Like, what do I need to do to get you out of this run? I may not be good with numbers, but you don't have to do everything on your own. Most women will pretty much just sit back and give them a space, be like, and may go on the ground and check a few DMs to see that so they can have their foot out the door just in case things don't work out financially with her, even though it's wrong. They should stay there for richer or poor, but
Mm.
that shit is out the window. we do. But pretty much, I have to let her know, encourage him. You can be his cheerleader, but lift him up. He may be the head, but you're his spine. The
Absolutely.
head don't survive without the spine. Now, I'm telling on myself. I ran into, sisters, and I'm using that strongly, black women, sisters, because that was what the majority I did. I ran into some celibate sisters. They weren't celibate too long around the time. They weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they weren't. Some said it's been a year. I really don't believe what women be saying. I just watch what they do. So, have you been tempted?
You can be tempted for sure. I think so. To rewind, when a lot of women say they've had a break from sex, I know they say men never really believe it, but sometimes it's just if you want to do it, you'll do it, or it could be a vibe that they picked up from you. So people are celibate for different reasons. Sometimes it's unintentionally, sometimes it is intentionally. There's not always a set time frame, so it's just any sort of break in sex can be that. But yeah, you get tempted, and you might do it, and then some people do it and they take another break, so it's all just that person's individual journey.
I'm laughing because, yeah, because I was the break. That's what makes this whole thing fun. But when the man is, I don't really want to say hot because it sounds shallow, but I'll go ahead and say hot,
Mm-hmm.
physically attractive, mentally, spiritually attractive. Is that what can make that sexual wall, break down for you? Where it's like, okay, maybe just this once. It's been long enough. It's been 4 months. Is that something right there? Fellas is gonna be watching this too.
Yeah.
I'm not. Oh yeah, and fellas, don't be trying to watch this shit to figure out how to break the celibacy freaking streak. Nah, what is it about that guy that turns you on so that? Well, I don't want to make it seem like you got somebody going on right now, right?
Yeah.
But what is it about a man that will pretty much make you go ahead and take a break from celibacy and have a little fun?